Looking to convert your book into an audiobook? E-Audio Productions is the premier destination for audiobook productions. We combine the finest performances of our world-class narrators with the production skills of our studio experts, bringing you the highest quality audiobook productions in the industry. From manuscript to a fully produced and published audiobook, E-Audio Productions is the best choice for authors and publishers. Contact us today for a free consultation. Visit us at eaudioproductions.com.
You're listening to the Author Inside You podcast, a weekly podcast designed to motivate you to finish writing a book, choose a publisher, and build an audience. Keep listening if you're looking to get propelled into the next chapter of your life. And now, it's the Author Inside You podcast.
Hello, I'm Matt Rafferty.
And I'm Leah Rafferty.
Joining us today is Silvia Davis, author of Living a Parable, Finding Lessons in Unlikely Experiences. Silvia is a public speaker, and her primary goal in life is to motivate and encourage others. Welcome, Silvia.
Hi, how are you? I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on the show.
We're happy you're here. So I see that you like to use humor to inspire and help women develop a more positive mindset about their values and body.
I absolutely do. I know that personally speaking for myself, when someone is trying to engage with me or get me interested in what they're saying, humor is a very motivating vehicle to do that. I tend to pay more attention to what they're saying. And for me personally, when I can get someone to laugh along with me, it makes a big difference. I'm like, okay, you're still with me. You're listening to what I'm saying. Okay, this is great. And then we'll move on to the next point. But I think you have to keep them engaged to keep them kind of from falling asleep because sometimes the subject matter, it can be very droll. It can be very dry. So it helps if you can kind of interject humor in there and keep the audience with you.
Well, were you funny as a kid?
I didn't think so as a kid, but my whole family is. And the book really touches on that. If you were to ask our friends, they would say absolutely. If you were to ask my friends as an adult, they would tell you that I'm funny. Now, I don't really see it that way. It's just life. And that's what the book touches on a lot too, is it was just us as Crawford kids. There were 5 of us. I'm the oldest of 5. And you kind of had to have that sense of humor because there was always someone taking a jab at you and you had to be quick. You had to be able to come back too. So, and we just had a good time with it. And yes, it was a lot of fun. And we were considered that funny family in the neighborhood.
Well, it's always fun laughing with your siblings and remembering old times, right? Getting together now and laughing, I'm sure, is a great time.
Oh my goodness, it really is. And that's kind of how the idea for what to write in the book came about. That's how it was born.
So when did the idea happen that you were going to write this book and then include your family in it?
Well, the idea kind of came to us. We had joked about it for years because every time the 5 of us would get together, we would tell these stories and we would just die laughing. And we had the first way the idea came was we said, okay, let's put all of these stories that we're talking about in writing and give them as a gift to our parents. And we wanted to do it as an anniversary gift. And we knew of the 5 of us, there was only going to be 2 of us that would actually do it. It would either be me or our sister Gina. And just, we never really had time. I had started to write things down, but we never really had the time to do it. Then I decided, I wanted to do more with the public speaking. And I started to go down that path. And then the country shut down. And I said, well, it's hard to publicly speak when there's no public to speak to.
Right.
So I thought, I don't want to stall. I don't want to lose momentum. I want to keep going. So what do public speakers do when they're not speaking? I thought, write a book. And even if the book doesn't do well, if I do get a public speaking gig, I can say, and they can say, and Silvia, author of blah, 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 blah. Because at that point in time, I didn't know what I was going to write or what I was going to call it. But I thought I have the perfect subject matter. I have these stories that we've talked about as kids. But for me, I didn't want to just tell stories. I wanted whoever read the book to get something from it, to get something more than, yes, you're going to laugh and you're going to enjoy it, but I wanted it to be deeper. I wanted it to be more, which is why I basically took those stories and wrapped them up with a Christian bow.
Did you find it difficult to do that?
No, not really.
No? Okay, good.
What I would say is, I'm very, I guess the way you could put it, I see things, I stink at math, but you wouldn't think so. See, being as how logical I am. So you'll see even the way the book is written, you'll see that there's a definite format to how it's written. It's got a story from my childhood perspective, and then a story from my adult perspective, and then the lesson that came from it, and then scriptures that kind of support that lesson, and then a prayer, and then blank pages. And each chapter is laid out that way. So it wasn't hard for me because I was just recounting memories. The toughest part for me was trying to find a way to tell the story that made sense, to tell the story, to put humor in writing, which was not something I'd ever done before. I'm very animated when I talk, and I tend to use my voice a lot when I'm trying to make somebody laugh, and like I'll change the way that I speak. Like I might be like, hey, you know what, and change how I speak to get a point across, like, and depending upon what it is I'm trying to get across. And you can't do that when you write. So you have to find another way. And that was probably the hardest part for me, was wanting to make sure that the jokes still came across and the point of everything still came across, and tying all of those things into a point that made sense. Right. You know, I didn't want to just have a story and then come up with this biblical lesson and they don't go together.
Sure.
They didn't make sense.
It needed to flow.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, you started off with the 5 of you going to write stories for your parents, and you ended up writing a book by yourself. What do the others think, the other 4?
They threatened to sue at first. My dad was like, baby, are you using everybody's real names? I said, Daddy, if it's my real name, then the rest of y'all can't hide.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I love my family. They all, stood 100% right beside me, behind me. They support it. And my children are mentioned in this book, and my husband's mentioned in the book, and all of them. I have such an awesome support system. But yes, jokingly, they did threaten to sue. One of my sisters, Gina, she's been telling everybody, you can't believe everything you read. And so it's been a lot of fun. And what is starting to happen, I've already sold more books than I looked this up, and I've already sold more books in the past 2 months because it just came out in July. I've already sold more books than your average indie writer sells within the first year.
Congratulations. Tell us more. We want to hear more about that.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. So I went online and I'm like, within probably the first 6 weeks or so, I had sold 300. But I had really pushed. And when I say pushed, I don't mean, hey, will y'all please buy my book, please? Right. I just kind of let people know that it was out there. But the greatest thing about it, the biggest compliment has been, yes, it started with my inner circle. But instead of people just say, oh, yeah, it's a great book, Silvia, good job, love you. Instead, and then leaving it at that, those people who had bought it came back and bought another copy as gifts. I have had people coming back and buying more. There's one person I know, she bought 7 of them.
Wow.
And she gave them away. And I'm like, now, I may support a friend and buy their book and never read it, but I can guarantee you this: I'm not going to buy it and then buy another one. if that's the only reason I bought it.
Yeah.
Right.
So that really made me feel good. And I had my first book signing last weekend.
That must have been very fun.
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. And that was another way of breaking outside my circle. But what really made me feel good was there's a particular story in there because the book reads very much like Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Okay.
There are short stories inside of it. So you can kind of read a chapter and feel like you've not left anything in limbo. You can read a whole story in just a few minutes. And that's what I hear from a lot of people, that it's a very easy read. But so I had some of the people who came to that book signing I said, just read this story right here, just this page front and back. So this one lady, I didn't know who she was reading it, and she screamed. She laughed, and she screamed. And my daughter was in the store, and my daughter's like, "Mom, I heard her from across the store." and that lady bought 3 copies on the spot just for reading that one page. And she had me sign all 3. So I'm super excited. And I just what I was told was, you'll do well, but you have to make sure people know it exists. And that's been the hardest part, is just the marketing I'm finding out. That's the most difficult part of this.
Right. We hear so often that writing the book is the easy part. It's getting people to buy it that's the difficult part.
Exactly.
I wanted to follow up with Barnes & Noble. How did you convince them to let you come and do a book signing?
Well, it really wasn't that hard. That's actually a funny story, because I called them and they said, I sent them an email and I sent them information about the book and said, this is what it's about. Here's a sample chapter. And so they said, okay, great. We can set you up. Are you free to come on, I can't remember what day it was, September the 27th. Are you free to come? I said, absolutely, I will be there. Well, I went out there the week before that because I wanted to know, I knew there was another author that was going to be there. And I wanted to see how they would have me set up. I wanted to be as prepared as I could be.
Right. Great idea.
And so they told me that they would order 10 copies of the book. They said they'd order 10 copies of the book. And I said, okay. I said, well, what happens if I sell all of those 10?
Yeah.
They didn't think that I would sell all 10, because very rarely do they have people who sell all 10.
And we already know one lady bought 3.
Yeah.
Right. So I went on Facebook Live with my daughter, and my daughter's, she's got that sense of humor too. Both of my children do. So we went on Facebook Live, and I say, hey, y'all, we need you to come out to Barnes & Noble next weekend, because I got a goal to reach. I said, they told me that they didn't think I could sell 10. And my daughter got in the camera. She said, dare I say, we could even do 11.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
So we had such a good time. It was such a great turnout. I oversold what they expected.
Excellent.
So they I brought extra books with me. They went into my stash and sold them, and now they have to reorder them to give them back to me.
Wow.
So yeah. And I have another book signing at Barnes & Noble on the 20th of November at a different location. And this location has already told the other location, order more than 10.
Excellent.
It's awesome. Very
and
awesome.
So just by asking, Barnes & Noble said, sure, you can come on this day.
Yes.
Great.
That's all I did. So I would definitely tell any author out there, call your local Barnes & Noble and just ask to speak to the manager, and just tell them that you've got a book and you would love to come in and do a book signing. And it was that simple for me. And I would have tried to do one here while I'm in Florida, but because of everything that's going on, they're not doing in-person events out here right now.
Okay. But that's great to know, because that's useful information for months and years to come.
Oh yes, definitely. Definitely. It was very easy to do. And the managers, Barnes & Noble, they're super. It's a super store, and the couple of managers that I have interacted with, they've been awesome. So I wouldn't hesitate to do it again.
So a lot of people say they're going to write a book, but you actually did that. You did write a book. What do you think made you actually fulfill the dream?
That's a great question. I really don't like to have regrets. Ever since I was a little kid, my parents would tell me that I always thought in the future, like when I was 5 years old, I was talking about what I was going to do when I got married. So I always try to think a little bit ahead. And when the idea came to me to write a book, I knew that I wanted to be on this path. I know that I want to publicly speak. I know that. And when I got hit with this major roadblock that the whole world got hit with, which was COVID is now in your way. You cannot go in front of Toastmasters and speak. You cannot be invited to this group to say anything, even to get any practice in. That is you can't do it. And what I told myself was, do not let that stop you. You have to find a way to continue on the path that you believe God's put you on. And that's so huge. If you believe that what it is you are going to do is something that you are called to do, then you also have to believe that there is a way for you to do it. So that's why I said, what is the next logical thing? So if I cannot speak in person right now, what is the next logical thing to keep that momentum going and to better prepare me for when I can get out there? And I know that speaking and writing a book aren't necessarily the same, but I do know the two are connected. I do know that if the book is successful, it will lead to bookings for me to be able to speak. And as long as I keep talking, as long as I keep working, and as long as I keep showing my heart to people and motivating people, it will happen. So that's what motivated me to do it, because I had to do something. And at that point in time, it was the something that made the most sense.
Wow, you're just very, very determined. That's great.
Excellent.
Right?
Thank you.
I mean, you need to be determined. So that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Going back to when you were talking about you and your daughter and the Facebook Live, I think that was wonderful too, because I think that sometimes people go to book signings and they sit there, where you were probably, from sounds like your personality, engaging with the people who came up to you. But I think it was a good thing that you went on Facebook Live also, because of you and your daughter's personality. It sounds like maybe you brought some people in who were not planning on going to Barnes & Noble that day.
It's a possibility. I believe the manager said we helped him to meet the bottom line that day.
Well, that's great. That's a pretty cool thing that they had to say to you. You helped us, that's pretty cool.
Yes, it was awesome. It was awesome. I had a good time. I was very nervous before I went out there because I didn't know what to expect. And I think for me, I have sold other people's products before. I've been a salesperson. But this is different because it dawned on me that this is mine. This is my creation. I made this. And if it doesn't do well, I can't say, "Ooh, you know what? Your product stank."
Right.
Because this is all me, sink or swim. It's me. And that was a realization that didn't hit me until after I actually completed the book. And that was kind of a sobering kind of a thing to realize.
Mm-hmm. You're buying copies and you hope someone buys them off of you, right?
Well, yes. And actually, I was very fortunate because I don't necessarily have to buy the copies. It's available online, any major bookstore. All you have to do is if you type in the title and my name, for once my name, you type it in and it doesn't come up with a credit report return or something like that. It actually comes up with a picture of my book and my name. So you can buy it in Target or online, Target, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. So I'm very happy I didn't fall into I have to buy them myself and then sell it, because that would have been really hard.
Right. Well, I saw on Facebook that you received your first professional editorial review from Publishers Weekly. How did that come about?
I went to Book Life Review, and this is all new to me. So I went to Publishers Weekly, and I guess Book Life Review is for indie authors. It's kind of like a division, I think. And I'm not sure if I'm explaining this correctly. I don't want Publishers Weekly to sue me or anything like that. But so what you can do is you can submit your work for a review. And they have two different ways you can do it. You can submit it to Publishers Weekly, and they'll do a free review for you if it's selected. Or you can go to Book Life Review, and you can, it's a service that they offer. So I wanted the guaranteed service. So that's the route that I took. Well, once they review it, then if you go that route and you pay to have the service done, they will put it into Publishers Weekly, is my understanding. They will put it in there if you choose to have it put in there, because if the review is awful, then you can kind of do that Homer Simpson thing and the meme and just back up into the bushes and nobody ever has to know except you, the Book Life Review editors and the Lord. But luckily, it was favorable. So I'm like, yes, put it out there. Let the whole world see. And I think it's supposed to be in Publishers Weekly on November the 1st.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, congratulations with that.
Thank you.
Well, Silvia, what kind of advice would you give an author who's thinking about writing a book?
Since I've done this, I've had others ask me that question. And I never realized how many people aspire to write a book. It was never something I really aspired to do. And so when I've talked to people and I know that it is something that they just have this drive, they want to do it. My advice to you would be do it. Just sit down and just start typing. And that's what I did. I forced myself, even if the story didn't make sense at the time, it will come to you. It's if it's in your heart and if it's in your mind to do it, then what you need to get it done, you have. You just need to overcome any of the fears. And I'm going to tell you, nobody had a bigger fear than I did, because I'm almost ashamed to don't even want to say this and have it put out there, because I'm like, oh, what do we want to read her book for? But it's, I don't have a higher education. I'm not a writer. This is my first book. And I praise God that it's being as well received as it is. I've gotten really incredible, humbling feedback. But my advice would be, stop listening to whatever voices it is that's telling you you can't do it, because you should be able to combat that voice with another voice that tells you you can. Why do we give more power to the negative voice than we do to the positive one? So just do it. Because at the end of the day, even if you're the only one who gets something positive from you writing your book, you're enough. So do it. It will absolutely be worth it. And you never know who's going to get something good out of what you've done. Like I said, even if it's just you, but my guess is it won't be just you.
Think of that lady in Barnes & Noble who got a great laugh.
Exactly. Exactly. So that would be my advice, is just kind of have fun with it. Just get out of your head, do what it is you feel moved to do, have fun with it. And before you know it, you've got a book in your hands.
So I was looking at your website and I really enjoyed the tab Meet the Cast. So when I saw Meet the Cast, like, and then I clicked on it and it was so cool to see the pictures of your family. And I like how you did the before and now. And I think that is also a great motivator for people to purchase your book, because you see these faces and you're like, oh, look how happy everyone is. I want to find out why they're so happy,
Oh, well, thank you.
Did you come up with that idea?
Yes, I did. I was like, okay, what can I put on this website? I'm like, I don't know.
It's a very nice website.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And I thought to myself, you know what? My family, they're such a huge part of this. And I felt, let me give them some kudos in here. And plus, I think it would make a difference when you read the book, you hear those names over and over and over again. So, and I really didn't go into any of, because I was thinking sometimes when I read books, and a lot of books, they go very heavy into the description of the person that they're talking about, the character. And I didn't do that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to give them the faces. They will actually be able to see the people. And what's super fun so far, and this is just getting started. But what's really fun is my family, they're starting to get their own little fans as well. There's one lady, she is all about Gina, my sister Gina. She's like, the book, you could just get a book and have Gina sign it for me. She seriously wants Gina to sign it. And then my sister Lucretia, who is the middle child, and everyone who's a middle child really bonds with her character, really bonds with her.
Wow.
They love Lucretia. They're like, Lucretia, we feel you. We understand how you were abused. We get it. And then my brother Wesley, who is the youngest of he's the only boy with 4 older sisters. So you can imagine people like, oh, Wes, I feel you, Wesley. And then our sister Leslie, she's the second child. And like I said, she is just that mother hen of the whole group. She's the one that's like, okay, mom said, y'all need to do this and we need to do that. And she's a financial advisor. And she's like, you guys got to make sure you get your retirement plans done. And so, she's always looking out for us. And I don't even know how to describe myself, but I can describe, the 4 of them. And then of course my kids and my husband. It's just, I'm very blessed to have oh my gosh, my dad and my mom.
It's wonderful.
Absolutely blessed with all of them.
So I really like the extra tab also, how you included the sweet potato pie, the candle, and also the base where you grew up.
Oh, yes. Castle Air Force Base. Yes. The extras tab, the idea for that came from a friend who I had a friend. He was actually the minister at my church. And every time I finished a chapter, I would send it to him because I wanted someone who really knew the word to kind of go back behind me and say, okay, does this make sense? Do you think that scripture fits with this? So there's a chapter in the book called Sweet Potato Pie. And I talk about my mom's recipe for sweet potato pie and how she used to give it to me. And he says, how could you put that in there and not give us the recipe? So I thought that's where the idea came from. And I figured, you know what? And that's something that I can add to as the months go along. And then also there's the part in there about the small fiber neuropathy, which is really important to me, that people know about that condition. And gosh, there's so many people out there who suffer from that, and it's just not very well known. It's not very well known, and the people who have it, some of them are in incredible amounts of pain. And like my daughter is one of them. She'll go to the doctor and she'll say she has this, and the doctors are asking her, what is it? So I definitely put that on there too, because it's like if I'm in a Facebook group with my daughter about that. So if anybody knows anything about it, because I don't know who this website will reach, what doctors or whoever will see it, who may say, hey, try this or go to this. And then I can share that with that larger group of people.
Using your platform.
Exactly. So yes, the extras was fun. And Castle Air Force Base was, it's kind of sad that it's closed now. It's been closed since the 90s, but it was an awesome place to grow up. And it was the only thing that kind of put Atwater on the map. But now hopefully the book will help put Atwater on the map too.
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah, when they look up the famous people from the city, there you'll be. So that's cool.
We didn't touch on editing your book. After you were finished writing it, did you have someone edit it?
Grammarly. And this is what I did. So I used Zulon. They were the publishers for the book, and I love them. So I would definitely recommend them to anybody, especially if you're writing a Christian book. Zulon is great. They really helped me sidestep a lot of landmines. And so what happened was when I sent over the finished manuscript and they had the editors review it, they gave me a really glowing review, and they said, we recommend our basic editing package. Now, what was told me was like, if they have a lot of editing packages, and it's like, okay, if they're recommending the basic, that told me, ooh, there's not a lot wrong.
Yeah.
So I had a friend, and you'll see it in the very back of the book, in the acknowledgments. Josh, who was my minister, he's also like a grammar teacher. So when he went over it for scriptures, he also went over it for grammar and editing. Now, that's not to say that this book is flawless, because honestly, I told myself once it was printed, I wasn't going to read it.
Oh, okay.
I told myself, because it was so hard to hit send, because I knew once I did, and because I just didn't have the finances to really do the editing like I wanted, I really wanted to. And that's another thing I would tell people. It's like, you know what? I finally told myself, hey, if somebody wants to get on me because I misplaced the comma. So be it. I just got to get it done. I just have to hit send. So I read that thing over. I read that book so many times, and I told myself, I'm just going to hit send and just leave it to the Lord. And so when it came back, when it was finally printed, I told my husband, I'm not going to read it because I know what's going to happen. I'm going to open it up, and right there on the first page, there's going to be some glaring mistake that I didn't catch. And I'm going to want to shoot myself. So I can't do it. but I did. And true enough, there were a couple of things that I found, but nothing really glaring, nothing that, made me feel like, oh, I look like such an idiot. I look like such a fool.
Well, the message is more important.
Exactly. So I think I had Grammarly on my back. I had Word, and I had a friend who's a grammar teacher. So I think, and plus I'm not completely stupid when it comes to that kind of stuff, but I did need help as far as, okay, how do you quote somebody inside of a quote, and where does a comma go in this situation?
Yeah, well, it is different writing, a book than writing like a letter
or an email, right?
Yeah, especially an email. Nowadays, it's just so different writing emails or texting with somebody, It's just, we're all losing probably so much grammar rules in our writing.
Back in my day with telegrams is what Leah is saying, right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So exactly. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, and I just had some faith with it too. I'm like, you know what? I believe that this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm just going to have faith that this is good enough. Like I said, I had those things in place. And for me, the bottom line was I knew I couldn't afford at that point in time to go with I mean, and I told my minister, Josh is his name, and I told him, I said, look, I'm going to look at it this way. The fact that they recommended to me the basic package instead of the you need fasting and prayer package. so I'm going to take that as a good sign.
Yes, of course.
Excellent.
Well, Silvia, it's been so nice talking to you. Your personality comes out, which I'm sure comes out in the book. And I think you said you weren't sure about marketing, but I think you are doing some very smart marketing things. First off, by being on podcasts, people will hear the passion and your bubbly personality, which will make people become interested. And then your Facebook Live, and then also your website. I think your website really, when people will go to it, they'll see, oh, I want to find out more about this lady. So congratulations.
Well, thank you, Leah. I appreciate that very much. And I thank you so much for your time. And this has been fun. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Excellent. Thank you, Silvia. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
It was wonderful talking to Silvia and learning about her journey.
And if you have a comment on our podcast or a question for us, give us a call. Our phone number is 475-4podcast. That's 475-476-3227. And you might hear that question or comment on a future episode. And until next time,
right on.
Thank you for listening to the Author Inside You podcast with your host, Leah and Matt Rafferty.